So did you ever wonder what news is? Deciding what news is really can be quite tough. A lot of it can depend, quite honestly, on the weather, believe it or not. And I'm honestly not joking. What winds up being printed or broadcast or put online sometimes depends on what else is happening. And today, as we're bracing for what could be one of the coldest days on record in years, depends on what else is happening. So what's going to be big news tomorrow may not be news the day after tomorrow or the day after that. So it could be news that a car crashed and knocked power out to a part of the city, right? Or it may not be news if something bigger than that happened. Okay. There are some basic elements that most journalists and editors agree define whether something is newsworthy. We are going to stick with just 7 for now. I'm going to go over them now. If you want to take some notes, it might be a good idea. This, of course, is loaded up there as well for you, and you are welcome to have that at your disposal. The first is immediacy. If something has just happened or is about to happen, its news value, of course, is higher than if it has happened at some point in the past. So immediacy is an element, the first element of newsworthiness. Proximity. If something is happening in close location to you or to those with whom you or your publication or broadcast has an interest, it is going to be of more news value. Proximity. So our first one is immediacy. Our second one is proximity. Our third that we're going to talk about right now, element of newsworthiness, is prominence. You probably can guess about this one. But prominence is if something is happening to a well-known person, it is going to have more news value than if something is happening to someone who is not well-known. For instance, if the mayor of the town is arrested for soliciting a prostitute, let's say, it's going to have more interest than if your neighbor, next door neighbor, gets arrested for the same crime. Okay, immediacy, proximity, prominence. Our fourth one, unusual. Element of newsworthiness, unusual. Things that are odd or unusual often makes news. The bizarre, the unusual, and the unexpected often make news. In journalism, oddity is defined as man bites dog. Okay, you know what that means, right? Everyone expects the dog to bite the person, but when the person bites the dog, that's what's defined as unusual. Conflict is our next one. Conflicts are where one set of ideas or individuals clash with another, and that often makes something newsworthy. Quickly, immediacy, proximity, prominence, unusual, conflict. Our next one, emotions. Stories that trigger emotions and prompt viewers or readers towards sympathy, anger, or other emotions can also be considered newsworthy. So that clock back there that's signaling right now, that is can also, doesn't necessarily signal an emotion, but it does trigger some emotions in people because it's a grandfather clock, and it's something that is something that part of people's pasts and is something familiar for folks. Emotions. Consequence or impact is our number 7 here today. The fallout from an event or an occurrence can determine the newsworthiness of a story. Some events will trigger massive impacts for years to come. For instance, natural disasters may cause people to lose their lives and their homes. There have also been banking events that have had huge consequences for years, even generations. I think we're seeing that with the home foreclosure crisis. We're still seeing the aftermath of that several years later. it is highly likely that you will find more than one of these elements of newsworthiness in stories. In fact, the more that you find in a story, the more newsworthy it will be. Once again, immediacy, proximity, prominence, unusual, conflict, emotions, consequence, or impact. You'll be working with these this week. Good luck. Actually, the next 2 weeks, weeks 3 and 4, these 7 factors will become very important for you as you dive right into the elements of newsworthiness and understanding what makes stories newsworthy. Good luck.